Hi, this is Shira Rubinoff. I'm here with Insights in Tech. I'm here with Ray Rothrock. Ray, thank you for joining us here today.
Hello, Shira. Good to be here.
Right, great. Ray, can you please introduce yourself to our audience? Tell everybody a little bit about what you've done, your wonderful career, and what you're currently busy with.
Sure, Shira. I've been a venture capitalist for 32 years. After being an engineer, a nuclear engineer, in fact, and then moved to the Silicon Valley in '81, I sort of discovered for myself venture capital and joined Venrock in '88 and retired from there in '13. And I've continued to invest off my own account. I've had 53 deals, 8 IPOs, Checkpoint, Imperva, Cloudflare, just to name a few cybersecurity deals that I led along the way. I recently became executive chairman of RedSeal, a Venrock investment where I was CEO for a while. And literally that just happened a couple of weeks ago. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do next. I'll continue to invest, of course, but other than that, we'll see.
Wonderful. So, Ray, we've seen the world turned upside down on its head during this time of COVID-19, and its implications across all business sectors has really been felt by us all. While the market is rising since mid March, there are still more than 30 million people out of work, businesses, and even communities still partially shut down, and the virus is spreading, not at the same speed, but certainly it's still spreading. So, Ray, how has COVID-19 affected the investment world coming from both points of the onset of COVID-19 and now in stage two of slowly opening up businesses?
Yeah, I love the fact that you emphasize the fact that the virus is still out there because it is.
Yeah.
It is not going away quickly, and it will maybe someday go away, or we'll come up with a vaccine. But in the meantime, we'll be living with it for a very long time. The economic shock of shutting down the world and trying to get control of the dispersion of the virus was really essential. And what it's so interesting how the internet suddenly became the most important technology ever. Maybe even more important than refrigeration if you think about it, because it allowed us to communicate and to stay human about it, if you will, rather than going into our rooms and just hanging. Um, it, it, uh, so given that, and given the fact that everything's connected, one of the observations we made at RedSeal was how quickly our customers went to remote work.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we were dealing with different use cases and different problem sets with and for our customers. So, and then we have to think about that. Well, what's going on? What's going on is there's this massive compression of what was already happening. This digital transformation, if you will, in our economy is now what was going to happen in 10 years is probably going to happen in 1 or 2.
Correct.
It'll have to try to get, and there's no, getting back to normal, there's no such thing as that. It's going to be different. If you read history about the Spanish flu and stuff, the world is different on the other side of these things. What's different? Everything's digital. Our communication, I was joking the other day, the first time I saw a video phone was in 1968 at the World's Fair in San Antonio, Texas. Now, it's like this is the only way we communicate. And that was, quite a few years ago, but nonetheless, the advent of technology to digitize our communications and our lives, and all our transactions. So for those 30 million people that are unemployed, I'll tell you, one of my goals when I was CEO of RedSeal in March was not to lay anybody off, and we did exactly that. We all took some pain, lowered our expenses, lowered our salaries, but everybody was still employed. I just got to believe that the mental health dimension of that, I really fear for those 30 million people that are trying to find their way back to a paycheck. It's not going to be easy.
Certainly. And from an investment perspective, can you share with us what you've seen really from the onset of the COVID-19 and really as now they say businesses are starting to open up a little? We're not completely remote, still remote, but not completely remote. Has that shifted at all during this time?
Yeah, the investment. So my perspective is really that of a private investor, a venture capitalist, if you
Yes.
will. And I was around right after the '87 crash, around for the '01 boom and the '08. And I was in '08, I was one of the managing partners at Venrock. And in those moments, investors quickly triage their portfolio. What's a good company? What's a company that might need some help? And what are those that, if this lasts a long time, you or the investment syndicate doesn't have the wherewithal or the capability to keep them alive. So you quickly triage, and that's what the private guys do. You slow down your investment because you gotta husband your cash until you get some clear signs that you're on the other side. You don't stop investing. You don't dare stop investing. Innovation depends on investing, and we need to keep growing businesses. A lot of the public market companies come from private. Well, they all come from private companies, but a lot of them come from venture capital private companies. So you need to keep that pipeline moving. You may slow it down a little, but you got to do it. The public guys, my goodness, I cannot explain. I do not understand, and I'm not such a dummy here about economics, why the public markets are so pumped up compared to the private closure. The only thing I can say is that the Fed has pumped $3 trillion in, and the public markets are still absorbing that. So we'll see. I love the Economist cover story a few weeks ago, the divide between Main Street and Wall Street. I thought that was a really summed up. And I'll shut up and just say, to the person that's out of work, the 30 million looking at that cover, they must be asking themselves, what is going on? How do you explain that? So anyway, sorry. So that's what I think the investors are, triaging and husbanding their cash.
Certainly. And there are a tremendous amount of startups at various stages of their growth, fraught with worry about having enough runway to continue operations during this time, whether it being from a business slowdown and partial shutdown, or being on their fundraising capital journey. So some of these companies will fail, yet some will be even stronger. Can you talk to this point a little bit about how companies can survive during this time and even possibly thrive during this time of uncertainty?
Sure. So surviving is, look, unless you are at a point in your company where your revenues do provide more cash ultimately than your expenses, then you are going to need cash. So you want to slow down that drain, if you will. You want to, think about a sink. If the water coming in slows down, then you've got to close that drain off or do something. That's what we did at RedSeal. We were expecting the demand for our product to go down, therefore business would slow down, therefore our revenues will slow down or come down. And so we've cut our expenses. And it's amazing when you have to do that, what you can find. So to everyone who's in that mode, survival is everything, right? One of the questions that is often asked, well, how long? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 18 months?
I think
don't
that's
know.
a big point you're saying. People are so unsure. It's uncertainty.
Yeah,
what does this time factor mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? So for those who so how do you thrive at a moment like this? Well, you can think about your customers. Think about what you can do to enhance their business. Everybody wants more revenue. So what is it about your product that helps them get more revenue? One of the things we did, for example, at RedSeal, we took this opportunity to send in our technical professional services engineers and help people tune up their products. Our guys are busy, but with the COVID, everything kind of slowed down. So we had some vacant time. So we got in there and helped our customers. So we are prepared. We actually set up a Thrive task force. One of those things was to ingratiate ourselves deeper into our customers, make our customers more successful with our products so that when all this comes out, maybe they'll buy more and buy more faster. So that was a very deliberate strategy we put together at the company. And that's just one of the things you can do to thrive. The other thing is, if your business depended on physical things to sell or whatever, you might want to think about what can you do to automate that so that you lower the labor content. Unfortunately, that's about people. But in terms of it, you just got to bring that cost down and be more automated, more digital with your customers. Instead of flying out there more often, that's an expense you can cut. Oh my gosh, look at the airlines, poor guys. What are they, 95% reduction since a year ago? But that's a real cost. Time in airplanes, it matters. I was on airplanes 50% of the time, and now I'm 0% of the time.
Well, certainly. We also are in different sectors where some startups, they could have been very fruitful, before all this went down. And in terms of investing, I'm sure it's looked at as a nice to have, a good to have, and a need to have. And unless somebody's in the need to have bucket right now, they're not getting investment, and it's not even coming close to it. So what ways can organizations even pivot to that as, again, the buying has gone down too. Their customers are not opening their purse strings to buy new technology or new product. What can organizations do if they're in that, finding themselves in the good to have bucket and wanting to push themselves over into the point of a must have so that they are ready and looking good for investment?
Yeah, you make a very good point, Shira. That must have versus nice to have dichotomy it's forever, and it just depends on yours. So if you're in the nice to have bucket, you need to figure out how to get into the must have bucket.
Correct.
So you need to go back into your customers, understand what they do with your product, understand if there's features or capabilities that you can add, you commit to them, get it done, and get in there. It the most powerful marketing tool, if you will, is word of mouth. So if you can get key customers into that must-have category and then use that, digitally promote that concept, then you have a chance of tilting more and more to that bucket. I do a lot of cybersecurity. RedSeal is a cyber company, and cyber in the commercial world, this is a slight change of direction, but I think you'll get it in a second. So in the commercial world, cyber still is a grudge buy. You just do what you have to do, kinda.
Hasn't that shifted though a lot in the last
It has shifted a lot, but not as much as you think, compared to, and this is the second half of the story, the government. I have a lot of government customers. Half my business is government. And they are mission driven. They are program driven. So they buy our software to fulfill a need, a mission need. And it's not so much about the cost. It's like putting men on the moon, right? It doesn't matter what it costs. We're going to do it. Right. We're going to protect our military. We're going to protect our front bases. We're going to do whatever it is. There's this thing called a cyber protection team. That's a new concept in the military, 2 or 3 years. We're part of that. That's a must have. And we worked hard to be one of those must have technologies in that kit. That was working close, literally shoulder to shoulder, spec to spec with all the people that were defining that mission and getting there. And I think the commercial guys, you kind of have to do the same thing. The problem is it's not operating with generals and admirals. It's a different thing. But that is a very different world, the commercial versus the government.
Certainly. And Ray, to leave our audience with, is there anything that you found surprising when it comes to business as a whole during this time of COVID-19 that you may or may not have expected to be as intense as it is now?
Yeah, 2 things. I didn't realize that I could sit at my desk for 4 or 5 hours a day and be on Zoom calls back to back to back. Everyone has commented about how efficient we are and that decisions are made quicker and implemented more quickly, which means what used to take 2 weeks in the physical office world now takes 2 days maybe, or even 1 day. You can start in the morning and you're done. So the intensity of that decision making, when you think, oh, well, I'll call this person and it'll take me 2 or 3 days to get that in, no, man. You can have a conversation now and make a decision this afternoon. Now, what does that mean? I think we can only do that. One of the questions you asked me in advance was, what does the world look like on the other side? Right now, we're dealing with people we already know. Except for you and I don't know you, but I know my customers, they know me. I know my employees, they know me. I know my team, they know me. And so I'm not having to develop that trust rapport that you get in the physical world. If we're in this mode for 2021, if a second wave comes or whatever, in order to grow your business, you're going to have to meet new people. Okay. And so we're going to have to develop new memes and new triggers and new things so that we learn to trust each other via this screen. Because right now we all know each other, and that's why it's worked. That's why we've gotten so much done. But I think, if you have to hire back, if you're a manufacturing company and you have to do all your hiring remotely, it's different, right?
Certainly.
Maybe due diligence on people becomes more, maybe a big boom market will be background checks. I don't know, but I can see you and you look nice and all that, but when I can be in the room with you and actually watch your reaction detail, watch your eyes, it matters. This
Certainly. And I'll say you touched on something very important, which is the level of trust. And that's a whole nother conversation, and I hope to have with you one day soon. But that's certainly about how do we trust people, this whole social aspect of interaction within businesses, developing that element of trust, the human interaction. We've almost backpedaled where we're telling our kids, listen, you got to sit with friends. Don't just text them, talk to them. But look what we're doing today. So it's a whole new world we're in. Ray, thank you so much for your time and your insight and your valuable information you shared with the audience. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Anytime, sure. Thank you very much. Be safe there in New York.